And so I want to tackle this because, as far as my research has led me to believe, when Trump instituted a trade war with China and also renegotiated the North American Free Trade Agreement, which made America more competitive when it came to them using cheap labor and then importing vehicles and importing things into the United States of America. And it was a huge gulf, especially over in China and with a lot of these other countries. And China at the time was looking to flood the United States, and they were already flooding the United States, especially during the Obama administration. They were flooding the United States with a lot of cheap steel, inferior and cheap steel. And so some of the tariffs were instituted in order to create a more fair trading environment, especially considering that when you went over to China, all companies that opened up and they decided that they wanted to do business over in China in order to expand a footprint, similar to how Chinese companies come over to the United States of America and capitalize off of the open ability for you to be able to create businesses and thrive, and then they wind up sending their money back home. In order to create a business over in China, you also had to partner with a business and become 50-50 partners, even though you were the one putting up the majority of the capital, which allowed for them to be able to steal your proprietary technology and eventually become your adversary and open up their own company. But companies would go over there and do it regardless. And the only company that wasn't able to do it, or the only company that wasn't required to do it, was Tesla. Tesla is the only company that was able to own 100% of themselves, but now they're competing against Build Your Dreams, BYD, which is basically an electric vehicle maker that's taken over the entire world. They're not just taking over in China, they're taking over the entire world, right? So there was a tariff war that was instituted, especially with Trump, in order to create a more conducive environment for American companies and better competition, and allow for American companies to continue to reinvest back here in the United States of America. When you also combine the lowering of taxes that allow for American companies to bring a lot of their foreign investments back home, right? Because let's just say, for example, you and Apple has made a whole lot of money overseas, or they have foreign investments, but they won't bring that money home because the taxes was too high. So instead, they would rather take out debt and leverage the debt and then continue to keep all of the money overseas. Well, when you lowered the taxes, it brought more money within the United States of America and more investment in the United States of America. Then this is why it's important for you guys to become informed. You need to become informed, not just on the surface level issues, but how you're affected as consumers, as your kids are going to be growing up and looking for jobs and all of that stuff. You need to know what was happening in real time, the real reason why there were tax breaks, the real reason why there were tariffs and all of that stuff. So I have not watched this video yet, but I am looking to understand what they are saying in the comparison of it. As far as I know, Biden did not remove the Trump tariffs. He actually probably thought that it was a good thing, which is one of the reasons why he left it in place. But make sure y'all hit a like for the algorithm, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications. Let's get into it.
President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump are debating about tariffs.
If there's 10% tariffs, everything coming in the country, that's going to cost the average American $2,500 a year more.
But do you notice he never took out my tariffs? He can't because it's too much money.
But not everybody supports tariffs.
The reality is that it ends up.
So Trump instituted tariffs. Biden never took them away. Trump instituted tariffs in order to compete against Chinese company and give them leverage, especially when it comes to negotiating better deals of what's coming and going across the border. Biden never took them away. Why didn't he take them away if he thought that they was such a bad idea? Why didn't he take the tariffs away if he thought that it was such a bad idea? Come on, ask yourself the question. Don't just go based off of the surface levels. Actually do the research, understand the policies, how it affected Americans, and then what happened after they were out of office. That's how you can start to understand how you need to vote and who it is that you need to align with. I'm not telling you who to vote for. I'm just asking the questions.
Up being a tax on American consumers. It's a hidden cost.
Trump's proposed 10% tariff on all imports could cost the U.S. consumers more than $300 billion a year.
The irony here is that while both Trump and Biden talk about the importance of reducing inflation, tariffs actually will increase prices.
American firms have to pay the tariffs, then many companies, they need to recover the cost increase. So what do? They have to pass the cost increase to the consumers. it also contributes to part of the inflation that we're facing right now.
And Americans are still paying for tariffs imposed by Trump during his first term, tariffs that Biden has largely maintained. Over $233 billion in trade war tariffs have been collected through March 2024. Over 60% of the total, about $144 billion, was collected under Biden's administration.
So Biden actually made more money as a result of leaving Trump's tariffs in place to continue to plug the holes that we have inside of our American economy. And if you look at the blue and you start to look at the charts, you can see where all of the tariffs were levied, mostly against China. Because they're not going to stop shipping Chinese products that are manufactured over there inside of the United States of America. And so in order to incentivize companies to create, because see, the federal government can't force anybody to do anything. All they can do is incentivize. So in order to incentivize people to create jobs and manufacturing, because we largely don't even make anything here, we just assemble it here. In order to create manufacturing and jobs in the United States of America, what do? You institute tariffs and you create a level playing field, because if they're able to use cheap labor and manufacture it for cheap over there and then send it over here and sell it for a profit, that's what happens. And so you see steel, they're no longer shipping as much steel over here because now the U.S. steel industry is a little bit more robust and was saved under the Trump administration. Aluminum, very little. Solar, hardly nothing. Washing machines, so on and so forth, right? But China is the one that Chinese companies are the ones that are paying the majority of the tariffs that's coming into the United States of America, which Biden did not reduce and they did not take out.
Nearly 40% was collected during Trump's time in office. So which candidate's tariffs will be more expensive for the American consumer? And which trade war would American voters rather pay for? Tariffs are a tax on imported goods or services from another country. Policymakers argue tariffs can be a tool to protect and help grow domestic industries and ensure national security.
The mechanism that a politician is trying to achieve with a tariff is saying, hey, we're going to put up a barrier to this stuff that you can buy from a different country so that instead you have to buy it from a producer here at home.
Correct.
But tariffs may also result in unintended economic consequences. Trump's trade war tariffs generated about $233 billion in duties collected by customs through March 2024. And it's U.S. consumers that paid the extra billions through higher prices.
China doesn't pay the tariffs. The tariffs are paid by American companies that import Chinese goods, and they...
Well, that's what they say, but that's a short-term view of it, and it's not. What they're trying to tell you is that, well, American consumers are the ones that pay the tariffs because the costs are eventually passed on to the American consumers. That's not what they're designed for. They're designed for you to eventually start to manufacture goods over here in the United States of America and reduce your dependence on foreign companies that originally was taking advantage of American consumers by selling products over here, but is not manufacturing them here. Once companies start to realize, listen, it costs me more to manufacture products overseas and then ship it over here. And that's one of the reasons why they're talking about tariffs on cars that are imported inside the United States of America. For example, Chinese car company BYD. Because y'all gotta not be so short-sighted. BYD, which Warren Buffett is invested in, is basically trying to have these government-subsidized cars that are manufactured in China, then shipped over here to the United States of America, and then they're going to sell it to you for cheap, and then you're going to feel like you're getting a deal when in reality, you're just helping the Chinese economy. Instead of us building and making cars and vehicles over here, and then trying to figure out how we can reduce the cost of these cars, what we do is we take the short side way out and we say, well, we just going to import everything over here. That's one of the reasons why we in this problem in the first place is because the Clinton administration is the Clinton and the first Bush are the ones that incentivize us to ship jobs overseas. And that's why we don't make anything in the United States of America now. That's why we all dependent on credit. The only thing that we do is we leverage interest in order to generate revenue. And that's why the banks are too big to fail. We finance everything. That's where the American economy is. It's based off of financing. We don't make anything here anymore. Now, all we do is finance everything. We put the money up or we charge consumers based off of how much we can convince them to buy, and that's how we prop up the economy. But in order for us to continue to become to be a superpower and be able to compete inside of the world, at some point you have to incentivize people to say, you know what? We don't even want to make stuff over there anymore. Now I think that we can do it cheaper here because it's going to cost us more, and it's going to cost American companies to import it from over there instead of manufacturing it here. Otherwise, we would have steel being dumped inside of the United States of America, and the steel industry would cease to exist, and all of the suppliers that support it, and all of the cities that benefit as a result of it. And so there's give and take. There's give and take. Short-sighted people are only going to say, well, the only thing we care about is the cost. They don't care about the American economy itself. People that view things long-term understand that costs are driven out based off of your ability to be able to make it here with American workers. But if you don't incentivize that, then it's never going to happen, because the only thing people care about is capitalizing off of things, capitalization, a capitalistic economy.
Pass those costs on as much as they can to their consumers.
It comes at the cost of us having to pay a higher price
Why we don't make
for
cars
that
here in the United
domestically
States of
produced
America?
good, rather
We only
than buying
assemble
the cheaper
trucks.
foreign alternative.
A study from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York found that Trump's 2018 tariffs cost the typical household an additional $419 per year.
We saw in the 2018-2019 trade war, almost 100% of the tariff was passed through to U.S. consumers. And so that means, yes, U.S. consumers.
And U.S. consumers can also do their part by not purchasing Chinese products. But I think that would be too much to ask, because y'all don't care nothing about it. Y'all just going to keep on going to Dollar Tree. You're going to keep on going to the dollar store. U.S. consumers can do their part by choosing to become more informed on what it is that they purchase. When you go to the car dealership, they have the thing. I think I might have one here. I might have one here. If you really care, I lost my other thing. See if I got it. What's it? I'm gonna play this and see if I can find it.
Had to pay higher prices.
The Biden administration says its recent tariffs will not have an inflationary impact because the tariffs only target specific sectors.
When the Biden people say it's not inflationary, I don't know what they mean. And prices of those products are going to go up. We had an experience actually with steel and aluminum. We saw what happened with that. We had experience with tires during the Obama administration. They imposed tariffs on foreign-made tires. And what happened? The price of the tires went up. It's not complicated.
The U.S. economy and inflation are among the top concerns for voters. An April 2024 NBC News poll found that 23% of voters were concerned about the rising cost of living and inflation. 11% of voters noted jobs and economy as key issues.
The economics on tariffs are really clear, that they're a tax increase that ultimately we pay, but the politics on them are actually really favorable, because a tariff is this policy tool that lets a politician say, hey, we're going to punish foreign producers, we're going to protect domestic producers.
Despite their differing stances on policy, both Biden and Trump have common ground when it comes to tariffs.
So on the surface, the tariffs that Trump has imposed, even during his last term, is really trying to protect jobs. And Biden, to a certain extent, is doing the same.
A closer look at each president's tariff policies reveals where the ideology begins to differ. Trump is campaigning on getting even tougher on tariffs if he is elected.
If you look at Trump, he started the trade war with China by imposing around 25% tariffs on certain items. And now he's saying that, if you get elected, he will try to increase the tariffs to 60%. So from his perspective, it's really America first. So in that case, Americans should buy the products made in the United States, produced by Americans.
I also will pass the Trump Reciprocal Trade Act. That's if China or any other country makes us pay 100 or 200% tariff or tax, we will make them pay a reciprocal tariff or tax of 100 or 200% right back.
Trump is talking about very broad tariffs on the whole world. And that's really not for a specific purpose of helping U.S. industries. It's really more to sort of show that America is in charge.
Trump has floated ideas like a 10% tariff on every imported good, 60% tariffs on all Chinese goods imported, and a 100% tariff on imported cars.
All right, so this is what it looks like, all right? A lot of consumers, this is right in front of your face, and a lot of times the first thing that you look at when you purchase a vehicle, right? When you purchase a vehicle, the first thing that you look at is the purchase price, right? So the total price is right there. But if you look at the bottom, right? The bottom of what it is that you got going on. If you look at the bottom, it'll actually tell you exactly what's going on with the car itself. So it'll say parts, content, information for vehicles, whatever, so on and so forth. And it'll tell you, it'll say, listen, for vehicles in this car line, U.S. and Canadian part content. And that's one of the things that they get you with. They'll say basically the Americas and North America itself. So they'll include Mexico sometimes. Sometimes they'll do Canada. They'll also do American and Mexico. And it'll tell you, and this is one of the things that we like foreign, 0% made inside of the United States of America. 0 parts from Germany. Major sources of foreign parts, content from Germany. 75% of my car was made in Germany. Why? Because I ordered it from Germany. I was literally watching it being built. They send you pictures of the possibility the whole time. And what happens is they eventually ship it over to the United States of America. So the entirety of this car, the only people that made money off of this car, or the only place where money was circulated from this car, was at the dealership itself, and then Porsche. Final assembly was in Stuttgart, Germany. It wasn't even assembled here. Transmission, Germany. Engine, Germany. Country of origin. The whole thing will tell you when you go to the dealership, and you go into it and you start to see every single thing that was made on this vehicle, in addition to the fuel economy and all of this other stuff. If you go over and look at it, then it will 100% tell you, hey, listen, this is how much of the vehicle was manufactured here. This is how much the vehicle was assembled here. And then also on top of that, this is how much of this vehicle, how many of the parts were made here in the United States of America. Yes, my car was custom made.
You also talked about proposing a 10% tariff. And I wanted to ask you about that because the Center-Right American Action Forum, which is a think tank, said that they thought the plan would, quote,
so they probably sourcing all of the other parts that they made, because 75% of it was manufactured in Germany, but other parts of it was probably made in other parts of the world and then shipped into Germany. That was a part of the manufacturing process.
Distort global trade, discourage economic activity, and have broad negative consequences for the U.S. economy.
Well, they're wrong. It would distort international trade. It would bring it back to the United States.
For President Trump, he's looking at the issues from the trade deficits. When he started the trade war, the trade deficit between U.S. and China is over $350 billion. And now it has actually gone down. So on one hand, it's that, wow, it is working, but there's a caveat. Actually, US will still import more things from other countries, but not directly from China.
Trump has also talked about replacing the federal income tax with tariffs and potential tariffs on countries whose citizens may be contributing to illegal immigration.
Said, I want you to give us 28,000 soldiers on our border to stop the people that are coming in with the caravans. And they laughed at me. I said, that's okay. You don't want to do it, right? Yeah, I'm going to put a 25% tariff on all of your products, including all of the cars that you're selling.
While Trump's tariff proposals are more wide-reaching, Biden's recent approach to tariffs has been targeted.
Announcing today, 25% tariff on Chinese steel and aluminum products.
So if he's literally taking Trump's blueprint and he's implementing it, how can he hold him accountable, and how can he debate with him about whether or not the tariffs is actually good or bad for America while he's trying to build up the chip manufacturing and manufacturing inside of the United States of America also? Because that's what a lot of his legislation is behind. And so in a lot of ways, what people don't understand is the same thing that you don't like one candidate for, but you champion another candidate for. They're the same. They're not going to publicly say, yeah, we agree on that, because it's a debate. But both of them believe in exactly what one of them did, And then they carried that over in the same way that Trump believed in what Obama was doing when it came to deportation and immigration. A lot of them agree, but they'll never publicly say it because they have to sow dissent amongst the voters in order to get you to pick one side or the other. A lot of politicians agree on a lot of issues, and then they take a small amount of issues and they highlight those in order to force you to try to pick a side. But if you're not educated enough to understand it, if you don't know that Obama was one of the biggest immigration advocates and he deported more people from the United States of America that was here illegally than any president before him, then you would be disillusioned and say, well, no, we don't want to build the wall. When Trump literally took the exact same blueprint that Obama had and he implemented it into his administration. And then Biden take the exact same blueprint from Trump when it comes to tariffs in order to make sure that they competing and they operating fairly as far as what the American economy is needing. So a lot of these presidents agree and they use abortion or some small stupid thing in order to try to divide you and then get themselves in office, but they're not going to tell you what they agree with. They're just going to tell you what they disagree with.
And we'll counter China's overcapacity in these industries.
Biden announced more tariffs on $18 billion worth of Chinese imports, including a 100% tariff on electric vehicles, a 50% tariff on solar cells, and a 25% tariff on steel and aluminum. Starting in 2025, Chinese semiconductor tariffs will double to 50%.
When he was running for presidency in 2020, he said that if he was elected, he would actually remove the tariffs imposed by President Trump.
And he never removed the tariffs. He got elected on lying to y'all the same way that he said, Jesus Christ. It's amazing how much y'all so disillusioned and how short y'all memory is to forget about what the truth is. He got elected, and one of the things that he said is that the first thing that he's going to do is remove the tariffs. He said it. And what he did was he instituted more tariffs. He did the complete opposite, or whoever his handlers were, because we don't know who actually running the White House at this point. I'm going to read the super chat shortly. I appreciate y'all. He did the complete opposite of what he said that he was going to do because he knew that it was the right thing to do. But in order to be able to jog y'all and get y'all emotionally attached to what he got going on, it was easy for him to finesse y'all. Y'all fell for the okie doke.
He didn't.
When Biden took office, he maintained most of the tariffs that Trump had put in place.
When Biden was campaigning, he talked about the tariffs the way an economist would.
Manufacturers and consumers losing and paying more.
Wow, he was a completely different person 4 years ago. He was what happened? Did he have a stroke?
But now he has kept those tariffs, recommended increasing them. These tariffs are also being paired with massive domestic industrial policy. So we have barriers to trade going up, and we also have significant government subsidies going to certain sectors.
Thanks to my Chips and Science Act.
Have I not been saying this? Have I not been hitting on this and advocating for this? I did a whole show where I broke down the Chips Act. I did a whole show where I broke down the Chips Act and where the money was going and what other things that they was throwing inside of this legislation in order to push it through. And nobody remembers it because nobody really cared and they was more concerned about the things that didn't really mean anything to us. I've been pushing this and having this conversation, and that's why I say I got to put the medicine inside of the candy. In addition to being entertaining, it's important for us to put the medicine inside of the candy so that you guys can make an informed decision daily, not only just who you voting for president, not only what you're doing for locally, but also about what you're doing as far as your decisions on a daily basis, even investing in yourself. Because if you're not educated and you're not informed, then you're going to just believe anything that anybody says on the surface, and then they can lie to you and then do something completely different when they really more or less align with each other.
Ever in science and technology, we're bringing this vital industry back home where it started, in the United States of America.
Dang,
I'm not sure that this really is even going to succeed in the targeted industries that Biden's talking about. His theory is that that's going to create even more incentive.
You're right. That is the reason why Taiwan is so important. That's the reason why we shipping so much money over to Taiwan in order to have this proxy war with China.
For U.S. chip makers to produce these chips domestically. For very highly targeted industries, that might work, kind of. Problem with that is when you do it Biden's way and you impose tariffs only on one country, it's very likely that one of the results will be that companies will produce the same product in a different country and avoid the tariff.
The Biden administration completed a review of tariffs imposed under Trump and decided to keep the Section 301 tariffs in place.
The conclusion to keep the tariffs is actually a pretty weird one if you read.
Anyway, so my point is that, be careful with what you told, do your own research, make sure you subscribe to the Millionaire Morning Show, because we're going to get to the bottom of everything in order to make sure that you guys become informed on your decisions. Our goal is to break it down from a C student's perspective, educate you, entertain you, and then allow for you to be able to make the decision for yourself.